Hey, welcome to the Tom Golly official podcast. And with me today is an awesome friend. He is a worship leader, songwriter, singer, musician, ninja, soldier of fortune, winner of the best beard of the day. Compare me to him, and he wins the beard game.
I just started it this morning, too, so it's pretty.
Hands down. But with me today is Zach Loomis. Welcome, Zach. What's up, man?
My friend. Loving life. Living it, man.
So what do you have going on these days? You're worship leader at Cornerstone.
Yeah. So, I've been everywhere, and I think we met online.
We did, yeah.
Just through, different songwriting circles. I think I was in Ohio still when we met.
Oh, okay.
And was up there for a little bit. And then...
What part of Ohio?
In Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah, so my parents are pastors, so we kind of traveled around everywhere. And so I lived in Ohio and I was a worship leader up there for a long time. And moved from Ohio to Nashville, met my wife, and then to Greenville, South Carolina for a few years, and then back. So we came back to Nashville in April of this year.
Okay.
So we're at Cornerstone Church down there just north of downtown.
So was it the that position, the staff position that was available that brought you back to Nashville, or was it?
Yeah, we didn't even know they were looking.
Oh, okay.
So we had bought a house in Greenville and was, we have a little, he'll be 3 in February, little boy, Charlie. And I told my wife, Emily, I said, this place we're in the mountains. Mm-hmm. We can be 20 minutes from any city, kind of where we're at in Greenville. I said, we can put roots down here.
Yeah. So
let's just do that. And it was the first weekend of January of this year.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through Facebook, how you're falling asleep and you're just mindlessly and then it says suggested friends. So I'm looking at all these people. I'm don't know that guy. Don't want to be his friend. Whatever your mindset is. And I see our now pastor, Pastor Galen. I'm Galen Davis. I know that name. So click on his profile. And I had known the worship leader previously at Cornerstone. Really awesome guy. Great songwriter, the sweetest of sweethearts. And so I clicked add friend, just not even thinking about it, because I'm we have so many mutual friends.
Right.
So that next, maybe within the hour, I get a message from, hey, man, are you up for a phone call? I said, no, because it's 11 o'clock on a Saturday. Dude, I got to be up in, 6 hours and sing for the next, whole day. I'm going to bed. I said, but I'll call you tomorrow night. So I'm laying there. I lean over to Emily. I'm he's going to ask if we want to, come for the job.
Yeah.
Or even not knowing really what's going on. So that next night, all day, I'm leading worship in Greenville going okay, be in the moment, but why is this guy wanting to call?
Yeah.
And so we meet that day, and before the call, I said, I really, really hope I don't like him. Because then it's a reason, if I don't like him, I don't ever want to work with, I don't want to work for you if I don't like you. So a 30-minute phone call, supposedly a 30-minute phone call, turned into 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I really, really liked him. So his first thing was hey, we have 70 applications here on my desk, and you're not in here. Why aren't you applying for this job? And I said, first off, I don't even know who you are, bro, and I don't have any inkling to look for this. So I gave him the very, very good church boy answer and said, well, I'll pray about it, and I'll get back to you. And usually when you say that, it is a total cop-out. I'll pray about it, and then you're never going to hear from me again.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I get that all the time when I try to book shows at certain churches. We'll be praying about it.
I'll get back to you, and then you're just see you later.
Yeah.
So I did, and I really prayed hard about it, but I was kind of having this conversation with God, if it can't be a united front with myself and Emily, I don't want to do it. Because I don't want to drag her to Nashville for my sake. Oh, I'm just being back in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then in 5 years she resents me, and then, she's living a life that she hates.
Yeah.
So I said, God, you gotta tell both of us. And so I was kind of a done deal after maybe 3 or 4 phone calls with Pastor Galen of I love his heart. And then I had the conversation with him of He goes, hey, have you told your pastor there? And I said, heck no, I haven't, because as soon as I tell him, he's going to say, you're leaving? We got to find somebody else. And then if you don't follow through, I don't have a job. And I said, dude, I grew up in church. I know how things can play out.
It could also create just you even having that conversation of, hey, I might be looking to leave, can all of a sudden trigger a very toxic environment.
I wanted to avoid it, and that's what I told him. And he just finally said, he's like, dude, he is your shepherd. You have to go. And so I went, and his name is Pastor Josh, and he like just a big sweetheart.
Yeah.
Walk into his office, and if you've ever been on any kind of staff or team member, like comes to you and said, hey, can we meet before this meeting? That's never good.
No, it's never good.
No one just wants to hang out before a meeting. No one wants to go to the meeting in the first place.
Right.
So I walk in, I sit down. He's like, so when are you moving?
Huh.
And I don't know if he like could like tell what was going on, but I think God just was placing those, like getting things ready for the move. And so I said, well, I feel like God's calling us, and I don't know. I don't want to make it weird for you. And he's like, yeah. He goes, it's going to suck that you're going to go, but I feel like it's the right thing for you. And I said, well, I got to get confirmation from Emily. And a few weeks later of praying and fasting about it and really just talking to other people, she just, one day in passing, she's like, yeah, we're going to go, huh? I said, I think so. And she's like, yeah, we're going to go. Let's do it. So we came in April of this year.
Wow.
And
So I didn't realize it was that recent. I thought you'd been here for quite a while, actually.
No, I mean, just with like how life feels like it's sped up, there's moments where I'm like, man, I feel like we just got here. Or another staff member the other day was like, so when is your year mark? And I was like, well, it's not till April. She was like, I feel like so much has happened, And so we love it. The church in Greenville, super awesome church of 250, 300 people.
Yeah.
And Cornerstone is right around 2,200, 2,300 people. And so it's been a learning experience, because all of my churches growing up, they've all been like super small.
Yeah.
Everybody in the church.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good and bad. Everybody's business. Everybody's. And now it's like I meet people every week. They're like, hey, man, my name is blah, blah, blah. So it's like, just sheer size makes all that happen.
I used to like being part of small churches, and it's tough because, like the last couple times I've been part of small churches, it's just like right away, it's like, I'm too much for them. It's I got ideas, I got great ideas, and it's like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Well, I can do it. I'll do it. Set it up.
Yeah.
And I'll set up tomorrow. Let's go. And they're just like, whoa.
Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes. We got to have meeting after meeting after meeting. And I always get stressed out about, like, when a bunch of people are getting together who have no idea what they're talking about.
Sure.
What are you meeting for?
Yeah.
I mean, have the meeting of, can we afford this?
Yeah.
Not like, because they get overwhelmed by how technical it sounds to them.
Sure.
And they're just scared. So we're not doing it. It's weird. Yeah. And, literally I've butt heads with pastors over like, hey, we can, like, for instance, we used to have somebody on the stage running slides. I'm like, hey man, for like $60, we can get a $200 foot, like HDMI cable, and then move that to the sound booth.
Yeah.
This way it's not, you don't have somebody aside the stage. And like I butt heads with him because he was like, they made a big deal of it. Well, to run the wire, oh my gosh, we need an electrician. No, you don't. It's a suspended ceiling.
Sure.
Get a ladder and two people, we're done.
Well, change is never.
Yeah, it's just so. And a guy like me who's just a make it happen type guy, it's just those small churches are tough. The big churches are tough for someone like me because, what happens is, then to me, and this is just my experience. It may not be your church, may not be all churches, but some of the big churches, it becomes, instead of the small church with one board, it's like a big church with many boards.
Multiple levels.
Multiple levels, multiple hands, multiple people. And it's like impossible. It's like, cool, you can get this, the worship pastor can trust you wholeheartedly, but lead pastor, who?
Yeah.
Who you talking? Whose idea is that? Who's going to do it? I don't know him. Like,
yeah.
So it becomes a very weird dynamic for someone like me who I like to get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
To the point where, I mean, again, I have sort of a checkered relationship with churches for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
And it's I mean, I think churches are an amazing thing, but it's just it's tough because I often, I get people all the time who are like, well, how could you be in ministry and not have like a home church? And I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, well, what home church did Paul have?
Yeah, yeah.
Where was Peter's home church?
Totally.
Tell me, what was his staff position there?
Yeah.
None. These guys traveled all over the place and, just did what they were called to do. And that's what I kind of feel like my calling is to,
Sure.
kind of help out here, help out here, help out here, and just be that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then surround myself with some very, very spiritually strong people to
Yeah.
have that church-like accountability and,
Totally.
things like that. So, but I mean, so for you being on staff, obviously you've seen a lot of that good and the bad and the
Mhm.
ugly of some stuff.
Yeah.
What would you say is, for at least from your perspective, because pretty much it's interesting how from person to person the problems with the church are it varies,
Yeah.
So what would you say as far as the problem with the American church is today? What would you say is one of the biggest things what would you say is the biggest problem with the easiest solution that just gets brushed over?
Well, I think there's a lot of problems, just like anything,
Sure.
because I think when people get involved, I'm a loner, so I can go away. Like any vacations that we try and plan, I'm like, let's just go away from people
Yeah.
because it's easy for me to pull away, and I'm most creative when I'm alone. And then I take ideas to people and go, what do you think?
Yeah.
And like as a fellow songwriter, like you realize like sometimes it's just easier to sit in your own brain for a little bit and work out an idea rather than take it to other people and then be vulnerable with somebody.
Yeah.
And they go, ugh, that's it. Like I've been a part of those like songwriting sessions where you're like, oh my God, like I just like bore my heart to you. And you literally looked at me and said, oh man, this is gonna be a long 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, but as far as like,
I've been in one songwrite where I had only really one that I had something kind of like that.
really,
And like the unsaved New Yorker that I once was,
yeah,
thank God he wasn't in the building because I
rip someone's head off.
I wanted to hit him.
Sure.
Like what was said to me in that moment was like, you deserve a beating right now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm gonna let it slide because
Grace and mercy.
we're at Kingdom Songs.
Yeah.
And we're at Kingdom Songs, and there's a lot of people around, and I want to come back tomorrow.
Sure.
But yeah, I get that, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's really hard.
Yeah, mine was at Capitol in Brentwood.
And
this was maybe 2014. So it wasn't terribly long ago, but definitely in a season where I was like the bright-eyed, like, oh my goodness, my name was on the wall. Like there's people escorting me to this studio.
That's amazing.
This person I'm writing with, like they are way above my talent grade. I shouldn't be in this room.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, well, that's like every room I'm ever in. I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking like, man, this is crazy. And every insecurity is popping off in my brain. So this person was late. And of course I'm like, oh my God. So I wait and like I said, told him, the song ideas and that comment was made. And it deflated everything I had inside of me. And I'm like, for the next 4 hours, I'm writing. He's like, what do you got? I'm not telling you anything anymore, But then I took that same idea. Do you know Benji Cowart?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took that same idea to Benji Cowart and Dwayne Laring. And I said, hey, here's an idea that totally got shot down by our mutual friend. Like, what do you think of it? And then that song, like, made the album I was working on, you know? But as far as, like, the American church, man, I look at it like it all boils down for me, in my perspective, of the presence of God. Without it, it's going to be just a big stew of people problems and craziness that goes on. But I know as a worship leader, in my lens that I look at every weekend of a room that feels like an arena because the building's so big, and I come from, I was so used to leading a church where I could look in the eyeballs of every single person, and now it's like, man, that back row is like, how you doing back there, without the presence of God,
Right.
it's just a song.
Right.
And that's that's a very large statement to say, and there's so many facets of like, man, without the presence of God, we're nothing. But it really is. I just keep coming back to it,
Mm.
and we've where we're at as a church right now, and as a people, and as a team. So our team has close to 100 people on it, on the worship team.
Mm.
So there's no way I'm going to, as one person, satisfy everyone's opinions of what should be happening. It's just not going to be possible. And as a leader, I have to be able to accept that. Having lunch with all these different people, like, why aren't we doing this? Well, there's only so much we can do, and so we just walked through a season of, my heart has always been songwriting, always will be songwriting. So when we came in, man, we're in Music City. What is God saying to us as a church? Just because we're a big church, we don't have to be a label. Just because we have a lot of resources at our fingertips, we don't have to release music.
Mm-hmm.
I think the stat is how many songs per day are released on Spotify, like thousands and thousands. So it's literally not even a pebble in a waterfall.
Right.
But it won't ever stop us from expressing what God is doing.
Right.
So, I mean, I came in and I said, here's my heart. I want to release music. And people are like, well, we've had our worship pastors before. Or team members say they want to do that. I said, well, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? So we released one song in October 1st called Emmanuel.
Uh-huh.
Did an album for it. And just the simple phrase, Emmanuel, God, he's with us. And what we've walked through as a country and a world, and we're still walking through, like, if God is not with us, we are screwed.
Yeah.
So we released that, and then that next week, our full-time sound guy, his name's Charlie Tualatai, he got COVID.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, this guy, you think like a total BA, like total man's man. And, he's a war veteran, has all these medals, carried people out of buildings while the buildings are exploding. Just a guy you want in your corner. He texts me, while he was in the hospital, he said, I'm not doing well. I'm like, just keep fighting. His wife, Kara, runs our choir.
That reminds me of a song.
Hey,
Go ahead.
And he has three young boys, and I'm like, there's too much life to live. And so we as a church, we went into this, absolute prayer of our lives of like, God, you have to move in Charlie's life. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so his last fingerprints was on Emmanuel. He passed away, I think it was...
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it was early... I forget the date. But the crazy thing is, God's timing of everything just kind of wraps around and continues to blow my mind and blow our team's mind. So when we came to Nashville, I told Pastor Galen, I said, I have all these songs. I have a Dropbox folder of probably 400 songs. And they're not all finished. You know how songwriting goes. You go, I have this idea. It's not fully fleshed out.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, I'll give you access if you want to hear these songs. It's like a glimpse into who I am. So before we came, he's like, I like this song. I like this song. This song's crazy. This is bad. And he's like, give me a hard time. And he's like, there's this song called Homesick. Like, what are you doing with that one? And it's just, it's in the title of I'm longing for heaven. There's got to be more. It's a universal truth of like, even if you could sit here and say, I don't know who Jesus is. I know nothing. I don't know about, I've never experienced the good and bad, the churches we're talking about. But there's deep down, when I put my head on the pillow, I pray there's something more.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I wrote that song 6 years ago, and it just never came to the surface. And he's like, you should do something with it.
Yeah.
So as soon as our friend Charlie started getting sick, that song just kept coming to my brain. And Charlie ran sound for the Katinas for 25 years.
Okay.
And then came full-time at the church. So a couple of the band guys from the Katinas, they live up on the north side of Nashville as well. The Katinas are down in Franklin, traveling, all that stuff. So they came off the road. So I was lucky enough to inherit some of those amazing musicians. they have engineers in different studios, and so I finished writing the song while Charlie was in the hospital, and I took it to a guy named Paul David, and he is just an amazing person, just the biggest talent.
Yeah.
And I said, we got to record this. We have to do something with this. I don't know when we're gonna release it. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. So we recorded a full version of it. I had some guys in town play, just outsource some drums and just to make it as cost effective as we could. And the day we finished recording it is the day Charlie passed away. And then the day we released it was Charlie and Kara's anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So you kind of go like, man, God, I don't know why you took Charlie.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me mad.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I go, there's a list of people I could give you that you could take. Why did you take him?
I know that. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I've had that conversation with God many a times in my life.
Yeah.
With like, I wasn't necessarily I don't want to say I wasn't a believer, but definitely wasn't a follower when my
Sure.
dad passed away when I was in my early 20s, and it was just like, why
Yeah.
my dad? Why not so and so's dad? Who's
It makes no sense.
who's this and that? He's just, that's not a good man. But you took this good man,
Right.
And then kind of with my mom, it was like, you took this woman who would give you the shirt off her back, would do anything for anyone, and why not?
Yeah.
Someone who's not that.
I don't get
I
it.
get that, and I mean, I can only imagine what it's like, for just for someone to lose a child and have that conversation with God, like why not me instead of my child? Why not let my child?
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
and to go back on something you said earlier about the like, got to be something more, man. It's like you're in my brain somewhere, because I a lot of times am just like, there's got to be, not only just, there's got to be more. Like, this has to be for like, all of this has to be for something. Like,
Sure.
you think about, first off, like the odds of, even just, I look at like inward, from being like inward, it's like, you look at the odds of becoming human.
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard it said recently that like, you have like the odds of you, I think the odds are better of you 4 times in your life picking the like the what is it, the final, like the Sweet 16
Sure.
bracket,
March Madness.
Like,
Yeah.
you can pick that bracket accurately 4 times in your life. Like, you have better chance of doing that 4 times in your life than becoming human, like by the stats, like actually
wow.
waking up as a baby.
Yeah.
And it's like mind blowing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, there has to be a reason that you're here. I'm here, and we're doing the things we're doing.
Yeah.
And I heard a quote. I know it's from a movie that came out, and it's really got me thinking. But basically, it was a movie about like, well, that God was visiting this journalist or whatever. So
Yeah, I saw.
and he says something to the kid about like, life is not an audition for the afterlife. And I started to think about that, and I'm like, that's what grace is telling us.
Yeah.
So okay, if my life is not an audition for the afterlife, then there's got to be a greater purpose to our lives than just be good,
Yeah.
stay safe, stay home.
Yeah.
That's a dig on all the nonsense going on the last 2 years. There's just got to be something bigger
Sure.
and greater than this, and it all has to be for a reason.
Yeah.
And I cling to that. But it's still, the mystery of what that is frustrating.
Totally.
And it sounds to me, and I'm going to go ahead and guess,
Yeah.
but it sounds to me like if you're having those thoughts, you might have the similar. You lay your head down in a pillow,
Mm-hmm.
you lay down, you're about to go to sleep, and all of a sudden, the panic. What if there is nothing?
Sure.
Whoa, I freak out. Then I'm like, wait a minute. No.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
me. It's just that doesn't make sense.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, okay, and I start reminding myself what the scripture tells me and how that actually makes sense to me. Like, why is the moon, the stars, why is all these things working together the way it does? Well, because God put it that way.
Yeah.
And I literally have this whole thing that I go through whenever that thing pops in, and it's like, There's got to be something more. I don't know what it is, but it just has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's weird, man. Like and I'm glad you shared some of that stuff because, man, I've been in songwrites where we talk about this exact thing. One time, I out of nowhere, I was in a room full of like 4 or 5 people, and we're all just kind of talking about songwriting, music, and God. And
were 4 or 5 people writing together?
Well, so what happened was there was 3 of us writing.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Well, there's 3 of us. There was 3 of us writing, and then 2 people popped in to visit, kind of unannounced, which wasn't okay. But we were like, hey, we were gonna get lunch anyway.
Yeah.
So. Long story short is like I kind of broke the silence at one point with, "Hey guys, you ever like been laying down and just all of a sudden you freak out like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die one day, and what if there's nothing?" And they're like, everyone's like, "Yeah, dude, yeah, totally." Yeah. And I'm just like, why don't we talk about that?
Right.
Why don't and like why do we like? I feel like one of the things we do as Christians, or even it happens in church whether we mean to or not, but like if you have doubt, there's something wrong with you.
Sure.
And I just think it's so normal to doubt or question or even be angry at God. Like that's so part of the walk.
Yeah.
And I mean, some make an argument that even Jesus himself doubted on the cross. Like, why have you forsaken me, God? But meanwhile, like the hyper spiritual will be like, but God will never leave you and forsake you. Like, so it's kind of like even Jesus had a moment of like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think if you look at Christianity as just a behavior modification religion, you're going to be like really frustrated all the time because I'm not a do's and don'ts guy. Mm-hmm. Like if you tell me, hey, don't go over there, all I can think about is going over there because I'm like, why? So if I look at it from that angle of there's this laundry list of things I can't do, that's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And like the Bible says, work out your own salvation. So you have convictions that I don't have.
Yeah.
I have convictions that you don't have. I don't think it's work my salvation out to a point of like, do I really believe in it? Yeah, I believe in Jesus. But work my salvation is a daily, here's things I can't do, here's things I can do.
Yeah.
So like growing up, I'm sure you probably felt this too, or in Christian circles, leading at events. For some reason, drinking is always put on this pedestal of like, don't do. And do I agree getting drunk is right? Absolutely not. But I've never had the conviction. Like, my parents have been pastors for almost 50 years. Mm-hmm. And growing up, that was the thing. Don't have a beer. And I remember as a kid, I'm like, I can't wait. Because I just want to see what it's like. But I know drinking for me is not a conviction that I go, I can't do it at all.
Yeah, I agree.
But I know that the things I put my eyeballs on, that's a conviction.
Yeah.
A daily, like, nope, don't do that because I know myself.
Yeah.
I know where I fail, come up short.
Oh, totally.
And, so I always, when people are talking about that kind of stuff of, we have a lot of people, even at our team right now that we're pastoring, it's a lot of new converts. Mm-hmm. And I get texts, hey, I messed up. I did this. I'm like, get used to it, Bubba. That's going to happen all the time. Yeah. But it's a constant, like, Christianity is such an inconvenient religion and a thought process in our day.
I feel like Christianity it needs to have more of I wish it was taught more in the vein of like when you coach, you teach kids baseball, right? Striking out's part of the game.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest hitters in the game have a batting average of 3.8.
Yeah.
That means that they fail way more than
a lot. Yeah.
Right.
That's part of it.
It's part of it. And I mean, I think that the mistake that a lot of people make, and again, someone's probably going to watch or listen to this and go, you're wrong. And listen, I'm willing to be wrong. Just disclaimer on Tom Golly Official Podcast. We're talking about ideas, thoughts, and feelings. This is not a preaching show.
Sure.
So, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't listen to anything I say. So just a little disclaimer there. But ultimately, though, I wonder if we'd stop ramming the idea of being Christ-like is being sinless. It's like I think we meant the idea, and it's be Christ-like in his thinking, in the way he treated others, in the way in how deeply he held to what he believed to be correct. Which I think those are all the ways to be Christlike, whereas there's just this idea of like, well, you have to be perfect. You can't mess up.
Yeah.
You know, if you mess up, then like you have to start again. And it's like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at, and if you really look at the scriptures, you see what, you know, the 12 men that followed him constantly screwed up, and they were never told you have to leave the journey, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is the journey.
And we see this in churches all the time with church staff. Oh, you messed up. You need to step down. You know, and it's like, whoa, okay, maybe he needs to take a break.
Yeah.
But like, I see, like I said, I see a lot of fundamental flaws within a lot of the way that Christianity is taught. And, you know, granted, I wasn't raised in church.
Sure.
And, you know, I definitely came out of the world, which, you know, I've had friends or former friends who that's been a sticking point between us. It's like, well, they were raised in church, so they know better than me. Or, you know, and I'm often like, you know, listen, I mean, I had this conversation with a friend of mine who always thought he knew better, was more spiritual, was more deserving of leading worship than I, because, you know, I've been leading worship since a kid. I've known God since I was a bit. It's like, listen,
these merits that we put on.
Well, this was something I said to him, and I firmly believe this. I go, listen to me. I go, I came to Christ at 29 years old. Okay, I know what the world tastes like. I know what it smells like. I know what it looks like. And guess what? It smells good.
Sure.
I could still taste what the world is like, how the power you feel sometimes, the thrills you can feel. I turned away from it for God. I know what I'm saying no to because I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, have the scars to prove it. You don't. That's where you are not superior to me. You know what I mean? It's you know, to me, again, it's just like, you know, one person's seen the ocean, the other person's read about it, right?
Sure.
To me, one's no better than the other, but just because I've read about it a million times versus you've seen it, that like, hey, you're right on par, man.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, man, there's such this caste system within the church of this kind of thing of just there's crazy hyper spiritualism. There's I was raised in a church, you weren't. There's all these things, and ultimately, man, at the end of the day, we are all just absolute failures.
Oh yeah,
and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, unlike you, I grew up in it.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, I've made all the mistakes. I mean, how you were talking about being disqualified. Like 5 years ago in Cleveland, I disqualified myself, not anybody else, from a choice that I made.
Okay.
And had to step down. And it felt like the entire world crumbled.
Now, I will say that's a mature and smart decision, knowing because you have to know you have to do what's best for you in a lot of situations.
Yeah, I mean, it was a made choice for me, for sure, but it was like you know, I had put out an album in 2016, a worship album.
Yeah.
And all those songwriting sessions of the guys being like, "That's your best idea." It was working up to this thing.
Gotcha.
And you know, doing concerts and leading worship, it's a very strange job because you're literally standing with a guitar with lights on you, saying, "Hey, it's not about me. It's about Jesus." But also, you're the guy on stage going, "Hey, follow me as we follow Jesus." So it is 100% about you and 100% not about you.
Right.
So just accept it. So
been there, man. I mean, first time I had Austin from Seven Time Down. He designed and produced a 15-foot by 12-foot banner for me.
Yeah.
To take out on the road tour. And
he drums for them, right?
He does, yeah. But he also does some graphic design work and stuff. He's an amazing friend. And the first time I cranked that thing up on the truss, I just happened to catch the fact that I'm putting this huge Tom Golly logo in front of a cross.
Strange. Oh yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm like, I don't know if this is okay.
Yeah.
I get the struggle, and it's like, but then somebody had said no. Actually, the pastor of the church, I even said to him, I'm like, dude, I don't know if that's okay. I'm like, it looks cool, but I just put in front of the cross.
Feels a little weird.
Yeah, but he said, you know what? He goes, here's the thing. He goes, it's okay. And because he knows my heart, and he goes, man, everything you've told me, he goes, good news. He's like the way he put it, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of like, I know your heart, and I know that a big part of you wants to reach the guy who, like I was, who wouldn't
Yeah.
be caught dead in a church.
Sure.
They ain't gonna look at the cross.
Yeah.
So you're putting yourself in between that person and God,
Yeah.
so that they'll look at you long enough to see the cross that's behind it.
Sure. Totally.
And it's like,
That's cool.
that's actually a really good idea. Plus, I also realize that people don't realize in my Tom Golly logo, you can actually see up there is a cross hidden in it. It's the T, the top of the T is specifically designed that way so that there is a cross hidden in the logo, but it's not super obvious.
Yeah.
But it's there.
That's cool.
But yeah, I totally understand how that can be a problem. Now, how did that manifest itself into a problem for you?
Well, I was writing full time, so I'll back up real quick. I wrote in 14. I started writing for real. Always writing songs. I was always in really bad bands, playing bass or playing drums. Drums was my first instrument, but then I realized I'm just the guy in the back sweating while like everyone's paying attention, and I'm like, screw this, man. I got to go up there. And so I started writing in 14, really serious. The church had done a project before that I wrote some songs for, but they were pretty much like a church project where like, here's a song, and no one really looked at it like, does it flow? It's just, oh,
Jesus
great,
is my
you
friend.
got a song.
I
Yeah.
have a friend named Jesus.
Yeah. He's like a Mountie. And so I met a guy. Do you know John Hartley? Do you know that name?
I've heard the name. I can't put my finger on
Yeah,
it.
so John is like a really kind of like father of not modern worship, but like the worship leaders who brought the Delirious guys. So like when Tomlin was starting out, John would hire him to do some background vocals when Tomlin was like not doing camps and needed money.
Oh wow, okay.
So
Wow, Chris Tomlin needing money is a very, very.
there was a time. That time is not here.
Like,
Those days are not around right now.
I wonder if he has to have a garage sale to get extra cash.
Right.
What if he babysits now?
Could you imagine? But so I met John Hartley because our pastor wanted to do another project, which I was totally for. So John and then a couple people from Capitol were in Columbus for this big event. He's like, we're going to go down. We're going to pitch it to him. Like, we'll show him all the analytics of what we've done, which were nothing because, we're just put out a church project.
Mm-hmm.
And he had great intentions. There was nothing wrong. And I was just like, great. A free meal. It's great, man. I don't care. I'll go for a car ride. So we go down and, if I'm walking into a room, I'm never the guy owning the room at first.
Right.
I'm an observer. And then if you say, hey, what do you think about this? You have welcomed me to that conversation. So I'm quiet, and because I know who these guys are. I know their connections, and so our pastor was given the spiel of where he's like, this is where, and spiel is a bad word. It's heart of what he feels like God is going to use us in Cleveland to do. And it was all great, and I'm excited. I'm like, this is great. I didn't even know half of what he was trying to pitch. This is awesome. And so John, we're eating dinner at this really fancy place, and he just kind of stopped, and he's like, so what do you want to do? And, it was like that moment of like, whatever this answer is, it's going to carry some weight. So I sat there for a second, and I said, man, what he's saying sounds awesome. And I said, I just want to be a part of what God is doing, whatever that looks like. And I said, God has called me just to write songs. Not only if 5 people hear him, if 5 million people hear him, I'm still going to write. I'm still going to work out my salvation through these songs, And so we leave, and I'm thinking, man, nothing came out of that meal for the church. And I'm like, I hope this doesn't backfire on me, like that I sabotaged what our pastor was trying to do because it wasn't my heart. So a few weeks go by, and I was meeting with our pastor, and he said, hey, John Hartley feels like you should do an album. And I said, yeah, but I don't really see myself. We were talking, I don't see myself as an artist, really.
Yeah.
Because, like, that, to me, that carries this, like, I'm not a salesman. So it's hard for me to walk into a room and sell myself. Like how you're saying the banners. I had a big banner like that and selling CDs, and you're trying to, and it's you're just making money. You gotta make money to live. I get that.
Yeah, you're trying to keep the engine running. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm never good at that.
Right.
So he said, well, if you want to pursue an album, let's go for it, bud, and let's do it. And he was super awesome about it. So I called John, and I'm like, I'm going to send you 25 songs that I've written that either we've done in the church here that I feel like are really going well, or that I'm really jazzed about. So my thought process was, I'm going to send him these 25 songs. He's going to go, oh my God, I love every one. We're going to do, a double album, or we're going to bring you here and connect you with all these writers, and Tomlin's going to record, 5 of your songs. And
wow, I've had that same fantasy.
Yeah, and it 100% is, because then you have someone who, one, has the heart to look at you and say, this is bad.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
Except in my fantasy, they kicked Mark Hall out of Casting Crowns and gave me the lead singer spot. Wow. Yeah, it's a
that is a good one.
Hey,
might as well, right?
I'll take that money. I can sing "Courageous," and we're taking back the fight.
I can do now, "Scars in Heaven" is a good song.
Dude,
even if you don't like them, that's a good song.
Yeah, dude, their songs are most of them are timeless. And they're so well done.
Yeah.
Man. So don't fire Mark Hall yet. You can, though.
If you do, the numbers on the
looking
screen.
at the camera. I'm available.
The numbers on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sent in a bunch of songs, and a couple months went by. I didn't hear anything. I'm like, this jokester. So I call him up and kind of was like, dude, at least a phone call.
Oh.
And he's like, well, actually, we're going to meet. So I meet with him. And he goes, you have about 2 good songs. I'm like, what? Are you crazy? Have you heard this one? Yep, you have 2 good songs. 2 fully developed ideas that are good. And he goes, here's what we're going to do. We're going to write for 1 year. So John is an avid writer.
Yeah.
He has written with, you name him, written with him. And very connected. But he also is a guy who doesn't want to just write another song. He wants to write the song that is a God song. It's like, when you hear, oh man, there's so many. But like when I hear, what a friend I found closer than a brother, the Delirious song. That's like, to me, that's a God song, because it's not him trying to be like, how clever can I be?
Right.
It's just the truth of it. Yep. Under a melody that you're like, feels like a blanket. So I was like, I want to write those God songs. And he challenged me. And he goes, we're going to write for 1 year. And he goes, don't. And I wasn't signed to a publishing deal then. And I told him, I was like, well, sign me. Sign me to a publishing deal. And he's like, no, you're not ready. So I had to chew a lot of my ego and pride.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? All right, I'll write you 1 song a day the whole year. You're going to get in your email every day. And he's like, bud, that's a lot of songs.
It is.
And, John is probably now he's in his mid-60s. So he's very much my dad's age. So I look at him as like that kind of friend, father figure. And so I said, screw that, dude. You're going to get a song a day.
Yeah.
So, bro, I wrote 1 song a day.
Wow.
And I'm sure after, 30 songs, they were recyclable of like, oh, you've done that. But I think my stubbornness just said, oh, I can do it.
Yeah. But ultimately, you're showing him like, okay, you
serious about it.
You want me to work out? Cool. Like, I'm going to flex this muscle,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
And songwriting is a total muscle. If you don't do it for a while, it's really hard to get back. But then you have guys like Michael Faraday, who we know, who he's a genius.
Yeah.
The first time I wrote with him, it was
I hate you. I want to write with Michael.
He's one of those guys that you go, all right, what are you feeling? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, let's talk. Let's hear each other's stories. So we were telling each other, our life stories a little bit, getting to know each other. And he's like, I got an idea. And he sits at his computer and starts playing. And I'm just sitting there like in awe, because then he just wrote like half a song that is really good. I'm like, dude.
It's just, that's Michael.
And then he goes like, what do you got? I'm like, I'm just taking notes of how you're doing it. So, Michael, I stole all your ideas. Anything that comes out of me is probably from Michael Faraday.
Right. I mean, honestly, you could be like his half brother. You guys, like, you have
kind of got a little family.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something.
Yeah. I did like this like bald head like filter once, and it was like me with a bald head with my glasses on. It was like at an event I played.
Yeah.
And so many people commented like, "Oh my gosh, you look like Michael Faraday." I don't think I look like Farron, but in that particular picture I did, it was funny.
I had no choice to go bald, man. My pops is bald. My brother held on to his hair for a long time.
Yeah.
Finally, I was just like, we got to shave it.
See, it's interesting how many great songwriters are bald. it's almost like the hair, like having hair gets in the way of the God ideas, you know?
The Bieber flip.
Maybe, I don't know. But
Yeah, so in all of that, writing with Michael and Benji, it was a year of getting my teeth kicked in, of like thinking I was to a point here, but I was really like way back here still.
yeah.
And
But the fact is that you got to like hone your craft in the presence
yeah.
of great, like in the room with greatness.
Oh yeah.
Where a lot of people have to continue to hone their craft before they ever even get to have a conversation with one of the
Sure.
people you just mentioned. So
Yeah, and that was all because of John, like
Yeah.
him. And well, in the industry, and I hate that word, but it is an industry. You have to have someone who champions you. You have to have someone who's going, yeah, believe in him. Get in that room.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to be the guy going, hey, over here.
Yep.
I'm over here,
Yeah.
rather than someone with merit going, hey, you need to listen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a year. I got to write with, a cast and crew of people like that just didn't make sense. Like Stu G. We wrote the song that I took to Stu G in his studio, which was kind of, as a church kid, walking into like, it was like a delirious museum in his writing room. And I'm just
I can imagine.
God, this is awesome. And he's like, do you want to play that guitar? And I'm like, I know all the backstory of this guitar. It was on this album and all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
And we wrote the...
Fanboy.
Oh, 100%. He was like, when we moved back, I called him like, Stu, would you come lead worship with us at Cornerstone? He's like, yeah, of course. Just give me some dates. And I sent him a bunch of dates. And I said, you have no choice, but we have to do Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble? And I know it's a lot of churches don't really do, because you're just doing what's the popular thing at the time. But bro, we opened up that service with that song. One, everyone loved it because it's just awesome. Two, I'm sitting there like, what the crap am I doing up here with Stu G right now? This is so...
Dude, I have a funny story. I'll tell you the shortest version of it I can about that song.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, to this day, I've never heard the song. I've actually never heard that song.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, right?
Sure, yeah.
Now, I did hear it once. So back on Long Island years ago, before I ever moved to Nashville, this church was looking for a worship leader. Mm-hmm. And I responded to an ad thinking, oh, this might be a cool opportunity. Well, no, it was a volunteer. It was like, oh, we're looking for a volunteer worship leader. It's like, well, I might consider it. It might be a good outlet, a place to, kind of, just hone my craft as a singer, as an artist, all that. So I went and checked it out, and I had this great meeting with the pastor, and it was like, oh, this cool dude. I get this guy. This guy seems to get me. Let's do this. Great. So I show up for the first day of rehearsal to meet the band that they had, which wasn't much of a band anyway. They had some guy who I don't even think was a believer.
Yeah.
Who just was looking to play drums.
Sure.
And he was kind of a jerk. And what I found out was, oh, you're not looking for a real worship leader. You're looking for a worship lead singer. Mm-hmm. Because I came in with songs I wanted to do and everything like the pastor had led me to believe.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was the pastor's wife was in charge.
Gotcha.
So the problem we ran into was she had this book full of sheet music and songs from when her daughter was the worship leader. Mm-hmm. So all the songs are in girl key.
Oh, yeah.
And she don't know how to transpose.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, here, we're going to sing this song. So like, okay, in order for me to sing it, I have to sing down here to make it work. And I'm like, I can't sing that high.
Yeah, you'd be in pain all day.
Yeah. So one of the songs that she wanted to sing in that first rehearsal, I didn't make it to halfway through the song before I honestly just walked out. Really? I just walked out and never went there again. I hate that that's how I handled it, but I just didn't know what to say or what to do. I'm like, this is not what they said it was going to be. Sure. I got to go. Yeah, and I just left. Tough. But, I don't know. She starts playing the piano and she starts singing, "Did you hear the mountains tremble?" Oh, I'm like, I'll be right back. I left something in my car. Out, see ya. I'm like, I can't. And it was nothing against her, anything. Yeah. It was just like, so anytime I've heard anyone reference that song, I just think of that
flashback.
Because I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
No.
Don't do it.
No. Yeah. I actually thought about going back to my old church after that, which I had a bad experience with. Man, me and the pastor were like, he was like my dad for like 2 years. Yeah. And then just, things were a lot of things were changing in my life, and
Sure.
I felt like he was trying to control it, and it just turned into passive aggressive Facebook posts back and forth,
Oh,
pointed
nice.
at each other, and it kind of reminded, if you ever been a wrestling fan, they had Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, yeah.
That's what like it became. It became me versus him. He'd be during the sermons, he would tell a fictitious story about somebody, and I knew he's talking about me, and I'm like,
You're back in the back.
wow,
smashing
I'm
beers.
back in his office like, hey man, why would you do that? Why? Oh, well, no one knows it's you. I'm like, but why would you do that?
I know.
Yeah. So it was tough, but we reconciled since, and I love him so much.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
he was trying to help me
Sure.
in the only way he thought I would get through to me. And I love him for that.
Sure.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
It was the wrong call, but I mean, just nothing but love. But at that time it was like, maybe I ought to go back there.
Right.
And then, like I said, then all of a sudden I found myself within a month of that situation, finding the call maybe I should be in Nashville.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were like, we had a lot of life conversations before we even got engaged. And it was like, yeah, I think Nashville's where I'm going to end up. So I'm not going to really, really like, cling to a church and be part of anything.
Totally.
So let me see what happens. And then my friend of mine, who's also a worship leader in another church, was like telling me about all the problems he had. And his personality is just not like, when there's pushback, he just caves. And he's like, I don't want to cave anymore. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, dude, I'll come and be like your boy. And I'll do the things you want to do and let them hate me for it.
Sure.
Like, I'm leaving. Who cares? I'm the bad cop. You can be like, I'll talk to him. And that's what we did. And we were doing amazing things because I would make changes to the soundboard even just the way things were wired up because they were done wrong.
Sure.
And when he would address it, they would be like, it's right. And he's like, no, it's not. And they know more than him. So I would just go do it.
Yeah.
And who changed this? Oh, Tom did. Well, it sounds great, right? Yeah, it does. They wouldn't undo it.
Yeah.
But who is he to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll talk to him. So that was the game we played.
Yeah,
I can't control the guy. I don't know what to do. And the pastor loved it. Pastor's like, I love what you guys have going here. I'm in support of it. Because we brought him in on it. We're like, look, Tom's kind of bad cop. He's that renegade robot cop that, I'm not going to do anything the pastor says no.
Sure.
But it's like, we're going to force some change.
Yeah.
And it's not going to fall back on the pastor. It's not going to fall back on Jimmy. They're the ones who are going to kind of try to explain it, back it up, or go, hey, look, give it a chance. If it's a problem, we'll make Tom change it. And I gave a lot of time.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of gear to make the church better because it's like, well, the board doesn't meet for a month. I'm like, well, we need 2 wedge monitors now. Well, instead of tithing, I'm going to go buy those wedge monitors and hook them up.
Just make it happen.
Call it a day. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I totally am like, man, all that to say that, can you hear the mountains tremble? I guess in a way sort of changed my life and changed the church on Long Island. But so you were playing that on with Stu G on stage. And
he came in because he has a whole like Beatitudes project that he did with.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I sampled some of that and I was just like, Stu G is one of those guys, man, that just. He's just unbelievable. I mean, anytime I've seen a couple podcasts where he's been a guest on, and just a special dude.
He's a sweetheart.
I need to reach out.
You totally should. And when I told him, I said, hey, would you come and co-lead worship with us? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I said, and would you preach? So, I mean, the dude was working that day because I said, the Beatitudes Project, we need to hear it as a church. And, when you get into a room that seats, 4,000 people, it's easy to turn it on and be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
But Stu is not that. And our church, you have to like lean in to listen. You have to, and it was so healthy for our people to actually like kind of like, and not that our pastor by any stretch of the imagination is like hype. But Pastor Galen has a big personality and he's fun. Where Stu is like, everyone's dad. He's just.
What seems cool about Cornerstone is you guys seem to have no problem bringing in outside people, to do things. Whereas a lot of churches, I hear that all the time, like try to book at a church. Hey, we want to come do a special event, or hey, we'd love to come and do worship on a Sunday morning for you.
Yeah. And
it's like, we don't bring in outside people. And, sometimes I get these long-winded emails about how we only allow people on microphones in our church after they've proven this and they've proven that. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah. No.
So seeing how you guys operate over there, it's pretty, it's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's rare to see.
Which
that.
stinks.
And you had Tim Tebow come in and speak, didn't you?
Yeah, he came this past summer,
Oh,
and it was
man.
cool.
I was on the road. I wanted so bad to be there. I had a gig that weekend, and I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell my wife about it. I'm like, I'm not sending my wife to go see Tim Tebow by herself. Just not.
He is not ugly.
No, he's, dude, if I can look like anybody, I'd want to look like Tim Tebow.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart because the church, I mean, obviously, people of that caliber and that name, it costs a lot of money to bring people in just from a business side. But Cornerstone has a huge special needs ministry that before COVID, obviously, and I even just hate saying it because you just have to like bookmark history now. Pre-COVID, during the week, there'd be, 50 to 100 just kids, then plus their families, who they would do lunch for them. And Cornerstone's property it's insane. Like, there's a 2-story playground, and upstairs where their kids meet, it feels like a Dave and Buster's. It's just amazing.
That's awesome.
And they would use this ministry, if you have this big building, use it. So Tim Tebow kind of heard about that, and he was already coming for an event in Nashville.
Oh, cool.
And so they just kind of called and said, here, we have this going on. Would you want to be a part? And he came. He was super sweet, really cool guy. And but yeah, our church is great because it's one of those, like,
I love reading the hate comments that I see when, like, videos where he's been preaching.
Oh,
It's something. It's like, why does he have to wear such a tight shirt for? It's like,
if I looked like him, I wouldn't wear a shirt for church. Are you crazy?
Shirtless pastor.
Are you? Oh my word!
Just wear a loincloth.
Yeah. You can write all the comments you want if I look like that.
No, but I do get a kick out of all the hate comments sometimes that he gets, and it's just like, man, you don't have a case on this guy. This guy is a good dude.
Yeah.
Or
you don't even know him. You know of him.
You know of him. Yeah.
Perceptions, and that's a sad thing. Perceptions are reality. So if I have one interaction with you that's rough, my perception is he's just a rough dude.
Yeah.
But that's not the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I get that. I get a bum rap a lot because, maybe people see me throw some shade at a friend, someone I know, and I'll be snarky or rude, Like, I have a joke with a friend of mine. Every time he posts a comment, we have a private joke. He does it to me, too. We just say, boo this man.
Yeah.
Like, he posts a video of him singing, and I'm like, boo this man. And there are people like, he's a jerk. Like,
how dare you?
It's funny. It's actually a quote from a movie that he and I have seen, and we're boys. Relax,
Oh, if people saw my best friend is in Ohio, and if people saw that text thread of like how we talk to each other, people go, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "No," because I have that relationship with him.
Oh yeah.
And
like whenever I answer the phone, when no one's around, and I have my business partner calls me, like, it's not safe for work. What's up, and I'll call him all kinds of different names. He does it to me too.
Yeah.
And it's endearing and it's fun, but it's private.
So
but if someone had overheard that, be like, "That guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
He's so mean." I'm like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
Say, I get it.
Yeah. But like, even like we were talking before, I come from the mindset of you don't have to believe before you belong. So like with our sound guy Charlie passing away,
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, because it's like you don't have to believe everything I believe, but just come be a part. So when Charlie passed away, I mean, that's a full-time job. We have 2 campuses, all these events going on. He was setting up gear all the time. Sound checks, rehearsals, like the expectation. If you have, 8 people on your front line, a full band, a choir coming in, like there's a ton of pre-work that you have to do to get ready. So we're calling people and pulling favors. Hey, can you come fill in for this weekend until we find a long-term plan? So a girl on our worship team, she's like, I have a buddy. He's really, really good, but he's not a believer. Oh. And I said, why is that even a hiccup?
Yeah, why is that really a hiccup? He can provide a service that we need, and he's willing to do it. Yeah.
Well, she's just saying, she's such a sweetheart. She goes, I just don't, you may cuss around here. And I'm like, yeah, so will I. What are you talking
Totally,
about?
Man.
And I said, what better place to have someone who's really burnt by not even the Christian side of music, but the music of scene in Nashville. like a Broadway guy. So a Broadway guy where had lunch with, and I'm like, man, you smell like really good whiskey,
Mm.
and it's like 10 a.m. Like, so what better place to have people around us going, all right, now you're gonna like be in a rehearsal where one, there's gonna be really cool people who are not gonna sit there and go, what is his deal? They're gonna ask you about your tattoos that are wild. They're gonna ask you about your new outlaw country project that you're doing that is killer. You know what I mean? So it's like walking those roads with people of like, I don't want you to be my robot.
Right.
Because if you believe the same thing I believe, I have no conversation with you.
Right.
What's the point of that?
No, 100%. I fully agree with that. Yeah.
And like going back to like everything as far as like my story a little bit, like I think I got caught up in the world of affirmation. You know, it's really fun when someone tells you you're really good at that over and over and over again. Yep. So I spent that whole year writing. And so the church where I'm a part of now is a part of the Assemblies of God. It's a denomination. And John Hartley was putting together this network. He's a networker of people, a network of worship leaders of the bigger churches who are like have resources to do things or who have good songs. And the Assemblies of God put together a record label. And you think like it's kind of cheesy, but then I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, they have a reach of millions of people.
Yeah.
Like, if this works out, this is gonna be great, you know. And
wasn't if I'm not mistaken, I know that there's this worship duo. They're actually from Long Island too. Brad and Rebecca.
Yeah.
I think they're part of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad and Rebecca are awesome.
So yeah, it's a funny story. Say they're I think Brad's dad.
I forgot you guys were in New York boys.
Yeah, Brad's dad was one of the associate pastors. I think still might be at Smithtown Gospel Tabernacle in New York.
Oh yeah.
And when he was a kid growing up, he took vocal lessons from one of the other pastors' wives, who was the same vocal coach that I worked with early on.
Oh, cool.
She taught a very choir-like thing. It's
Sure.
great for a beginner singer.
Sure.
You know, and then like when you get into singing more commercial pop, there's definitely different techniques you have to go and learn.
Totally.
But it's kind of interesting how I met him once. They had an album they put out called Acoustically Inclined.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they had a performance at the church, and I met him once.
Yeah.
That was it. But we've interacted occasionally on Facebook. But yeah, it's that's
we've done a lot of
pretty cool.
like compilation stuff.
Yeah.
2 or 3 with them.
They're really good at what they do, man.
Yeah, they're very cool people, very real, down to earth people.
Yeah.
And so I would have them when I was a worship pastor in Cleveland. They would come in and lead, and I'd be like, I get the weekend off. This is great.
Yeah.
So we were a part of compilation albums, and I was kind of I wouldn't say the first, but one of the first guinea pigs of this label. And it was very well-hearted, well thought out on the front end.
Yeah.
But just like anything, the back end is where all the work is. So you get all the songs, release the album, and it was kind of like, all right, we're done, let's move on. But I'm like, well, there's a lot more marketing. There's a lot more of these things, touring and stuff like that. So we released the album. It's called Captivate in January 15th of 2016. And did some, that's kind of how I met my wife. I came down to Clarksville, Tennessee. Their worship pastor, who is now my brother-in-law, was preaching, and they needed a guy. So I got a call, hey, would you come down? I'm like, yeah, I can make a weekend out of it. I can write, can do all this stuff, see my little sister. She lives here. Came down, led worship that day, and saw my wife at the merch table. And we had some mutual friends because just in the Assemblies of God world, it's not that big. And I'm standing there by my little sister, Hannah, and Hannah goes, that's your wife? I said, no, she is way out of my league. Are you crazy? I can't even talk to her without going, oh, yeah, I know Chase Wagner too. Like, being a goofball. So I did what anybody does now, and I follow her on all social media stuff. And
You mean you didn't walk up and go, sup? baby. My name's Zach
No,
Loomis.
I do
I'm the
not.
lead singer of the worship band, baby.
She would have laughed at me, and it would have been, yeah. So I messaged her, and I did this thing, because that was in May, and that June I was going on a 5-week tour in Germany.
Oh wow!
And so I did like, hey, I'm gonna be in Germany, like I'm gonna be on tour. I'll hit you back when I'm back in the States.
Kind of a big deal.
No, that's such like a D-bag kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, I'm in the studio working on a project. I'll hit you back.
The studio's like a milk crate with a mic in it, Yeah, I'm in the studio.
You ever see the meme back in the day with like it was like a Fisher Price thing?
That's my studio now. Are you crazy? So I went and toured Germany, and she read the Facebook message, but didn't respond. So finally,
that's the Nashville response,
right?
Yeah.
So finally, my now brother-in-law said, "Hey, you need to message him." So we just started creating this relationship, just over text and calling each other all the time. And inside of that, was still doing worship leading on the weekends, of course, but traveling, doing those things.
Yeah, yeah.
And like we were saying, there are certain convictions that I know that I have and I don't have.
Yeah.
And I had never built like safety rails in my life at that point, because it was always like, it was such a supportive church up there. Like I could have burped into the microphone on a Sunday, and oh my goodness, what a songwriter you are!
He's so funny. Yeah.
With that, you know what I mean? So it was like this weird mentality of like, this is awesome on every level. And all of that. So building my relationship with Emily, and then made a stupid decision with another female.
Oh.
And then you know how when you mess up, you don't want to admit it, and then you start trying to cover it up, and like you're like, then you become this like weird. I became this like deceitful, like trying to like cover my tracks. Everything's gonna be okay, while doing things with people with the opposite sex is a really fun thing.
Sure.
And so then it kind of came, it came to the surface one day. Actually, you know how in life that you just have dates that come up.
Yeah.
It was December 5th of 2016, right before Christmas.
Oh wow.
And it came out, and I had to confess it to the worship team, the church I was a part of.
Now, you were married at the time or no?
No, we were just dating. Okay. And so I had to tell Emily, hey, here's what happened. Here's what has been happening. And the grace that she extended and mercy. Of course, there was moments of like, she was like, dude, screw you, pal. Like, you crazy?
Yeah.
The church I was a part of in Cleveland, it started out as a home church, and it built up. So I came on board when there was maybe 80 people. And by December 5th of 2016, there was 1,800 people with 5 campuses, and had all these worship leaders underneath me. And so, again, those didn't help the compounding of feeling like the guy and big boy on campus. So that there was that thing of like, God brought darkness to light, and I had to get healed from it. And so I knew at that point, and I'll be 36 in February, so I'm not an old guy, but I'm not a young guy either. And I knew my time. I had to make a decision. My parents were campus pastors.
Yeah.
At this, so there was a lot of like things where it felt like, man, the world is caving in, and to an extent, it was caving in because it had to.
Yeah, and I'm sure in that scenario too, like, I mean, you're probably also trying to you're probably finding ways to justify it in your own mind that it's not a big deal,
100%.
It's not a problem. Like not that I've been in this situation, but I can imagine if I was, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so highly defensive.
Yeah.
I make sure I don't put myself in those kind of positions, because I already know type of guy I can be. I probably would be like, in your shoes, I'd probably be like, well, if I'm not married, what's the big deal? I probably would have come up with a million reasons to just kind of bury it,
Yeah, I tried, but then,
I
had that accountability of like, even my best friend, Paul, who I had hid things from.
Yeah.
Just because, being sneaky's fun, man, until you get caught, and then you like realize how gross it is. And it's like, so I had the decision. The pastor came out to me, and he was very sweet about it. And he was devastated because the church had invested, time and resources, and then the Assemblies of God had signed me to a label deal, and I had distribution through Sony Provident, and like the wheels were moving. And then I'm like, well, listen here, it was on me, y'all. So so there was like that next year, so 2017 was a like rough, hard year as far as finding out who I was without a guitar in my hand.
Yeah.
Or
now you said Emily showed you a lot of grace and love.
Yeah.
Like did she end the relationship then, or
there was a time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a time over. It was probably, and she's such a sweetheart. She still sent me a Christmas gift. You know, I'm like, I'm sitting in Ohio trying to figure out what the next step is, and I get this. I'm a big like Butch Walker fan of like, and he put out like all these singer-songwriter albums that were just killer, and she sends me this bundle of vinyl, and I'm just like, I'm the worst human alive, and she's still being a sweetheart.
Well, she didn't hate you; she hated what you did.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And so I kept texting and calling her, and we'd have conversations of like, she's like, well, I'm not moving to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I said, good, because there's really nothing in Cleveland for me.
Yeah.
She said, well, she goes, I'm actually moving to Clarksville, Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
And I said, great, that's close to Nashville. I'll pack up my car and I'll go. And I moved in with my little sister and brother-in-law. I'm sure they enjoyed that time period of like, their.
So you essentially made sure she had a front row seat to your growth and change.
Yeah.
By wanting to stay close to where she was.
Yeah. And she wanted it too.
Yeah.
She wanted to be a part of it too, which was.
That's amazing. I mean, dude, you're a blessed man.
Oh, a 1,000,000%.
And maybe she realizes how blessed she is that you were a lot of men don't want to, especially, how old were you at this time?
I was right at 30.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, 29, 30, we're still kids,
Yeah.
I mean, you're willing to, be like, hey, I need to be a better version of me here, and willing to actually put the steps in and the work in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people won't do that. A lot of people will just, nothing wrong with me, you're the problem, and that's amazing. Sounds like you're both pretty amazing people.
Yeah,
so.
well, I had lived that, pushing that everybody's a problem, and then the day clicks where you go, maybe it is me.
Yeah. I went through that with, I found myself, I've talked about this multiple times in other episodes with people. It seems like this is a common theme with relationships. Seems like the truth is I'm learning about most people, relationships are a problem for all of us.
Yeah.
And, I found myself much surprisingly, my wife and I never fight. Suddenly we get into a fight and like the D word came up and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, now to be fair, it turns out that was just an extreme word used to like, okay, I want to show him,
your attention,
I want to get his attention, show him how frustrated I am,
Yeah.
And, of course, that first session, it's sitting there like, she does this and she does that and she doesn't do this and she does it. And it's this. And then you're hearing the same thing about yourself. By like session 3 or 4, I'm going, interesting. Everything I don't like that she does or says or this is always a reaction to something I did.
Right.
None of the, maybe 1 or 2 things I have a problem with her doing is not, but the bulk of the problem is, I'm creating this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating that reaction. I've created that level of frustration by ignoring this thing time and time and time and time again, where it's to her, it's like, it blows up and it's like, yo, I'm the problem.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah.
And, and on top of that, it's like, I'm the problem, but also like we as a couple never really took the time to, hey, just so you know, when you do that kind of thing, I don't know, you don't mean to make me feel this way, but it makes me feel this way. And having that conversation is like, I never meant to feel that way. What's a way that would effectively communicate that to you so it doesn't? Yeah. And we have those conversations and they felt weird at first, but now it's like
normal.
Yeah, but now it's like, whoa, what she just said really made me mad. Why? And I start thinking, why did it make me mad? And it's like, okay, the way she came at me probably was not like that. It probably, and I have to start thinking, and this is what I've had to learn to do. What happened to me in my life that this is making me, because for me, I realize I have a lot of triggers.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, if if something goes on between maybe my wife and one of her siblings, it makes me like I'm ready to like bite the
Yeah.
jugular vein of her sibling.
Yeah.
Why do I feel that way?
Yeah.
It's because I have stuff from
Mm,
my siblings and it triggers it.
totally.
So it's like I have to sit there and go, okay, wait, it's not that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
It's totally
and
something else.
yeah, it's totally, and that's I think that's an incredibly groundbreaking thing for us as people and as men, is that like, wait a minute, like this is a me problem first, you know,
Yeah.
and I need to recognize it, and it's hard to
Yeah.
recognize it.
It is, and it took it when I came down here. I remember I moved down in January of 2017, and and like growing up in church, weekends were like the Super Bowl. Everything led up to the weekend, so you just put this big emphasis on church.
Mhm.
And I met with the pastor up in Clarksville for coffee, and I was telling him kind of the story, and I was very raw. And he said, "Well, why don't you just come and sit in church for the next 6 months?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's kind of that's my identity." I was like,
That's hard to do.
it's hard to do,
hard.
especially coming out of that, and So I did it for a while, and I said it's not a thing of I need to be on the stage at all. I love serving,
Right.
and I saw needs where I go, well, I could be your backup guitar player. You
Yeah.
know? I don't need to be the guy.
And that's
up
so
front.
hard to do when even then it's like, okay, I'll just come sit in church. And then your mind starts seeing the whole, like what I always say, like for me, it's always, I see where the Tom Golly sized holes are
Yeah.
that I can fit right in and make
Yeah.
an impact. And,
Yeah.
like whatever that thing is, I can make it better.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's on stage. Sometimes it's like, man, get me behind the board.
Totally.
I can mix this way better than what's going on, or I can, I can rewire this up. And,
Yeah.
that's a real problem for me
Yeah.
because my biggest issue is, again, I tend to focus on those things, and the serving God sometimes gets lost in the
Sure.
fold. And I always come out of it like, man, it's it's kind of like, my relationship with churches are kind of like a Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm this nice guy, good intentions, and next thing you know, you wreck the place, and
Like
everyone's
coming
like,
in hot. Yeah,
everyone's like, "What'd you do?" And it's like, "What?" And meanwhile, it's like poor Wreck-It Ralph, like he just was like, "Oh, hey guys, oh
Yeah.
crap!" Like
Yeah.
that's me,
Sure.
just so not aware
Yeah.
of certain things,
Yeah.
and part of it too for me, like here in Nashville, it's been tough because I'm this New York guy, and the way we interact with each other there,
Different, yeah.
so different.
Sure.
Like so yeah, I totally get what you're talking about, man.
Yeah. So I spent time not doing anything. And it was great. And then just picking up odd jobs. And actually, my brother-in-law Jeremy, he has played for everybody. He started in a band called Love Drug back in the day. He used to play bass for Reliant K, all these
Wow.
bands. He's playing bass right now for We the Kingdom. And
Your forgiveness. Yeah.
oh, that flat 7 everyone's going to. So yeah, he was with 10th Avenue North. And so he was teching for them and playing just backup.
Yeah.
So he said, "Hey, if you want to hop on the bus, we have a few dates that if you just want to tech." He goes, "You're just going to come work your butt off." He goes, "You can escape a little bit." I said, "Yeah, that's great, man." Yeah. And, I wasn't paying them rent. So he's like, "And with whatever money you make, you can give us some rent money, And they were being super sweet. So just like anything, you start like, I can meet them and maybe they'll like some of these new songs I'm writing and all this stuff. And you start like looking for little areas. But then I kept going, nope, just be around. Mm-hmm. So I went out and I teched for them for a few months in that summer and just really just started becoming just their buds. And I never wanted to be the guy in the room or on the bus being like, hey, Mike, the lead singer, hey, you have a second? You want to hear a song? Because, that's... If you've ever been asked that, you're like, I don't want to hear a song right now. Right. Just leave me alone. So I never did. And or I take that. I did show Jeff, the guitar player. I said, I got your song for your next album you're doing. And of course they didn't like it because it was just too worship world. So it was a Friday night, early summer of 17. And Jeremy and Hannah, they rented a house next door to Plum, Tiffany Lee. She had a studio set up, and she was super sweet. She said, anytime you want to use this space, it's probably a room this size. Just, you can come in here and make noise all you want. No one will hear you.
That's cool.
Yeah, so she was awesome. And I said, yep. And I never used it because I didn't have anything
Right.
to do. I felt very, very empty of songs.
Yeah.
And
I used to have access to a small church that was probably maybe like 3 of these rooms, not very big, but it was like a storefront kind of church. I had access to it. They were like, yeah, anytime you want to use it for any reason, and I never used it even once. It was
weird.
like, it's weird when you have this resource but nothing for it.
Yeah,
it's like a cup. It's like a cup with nothing to pour into.
And that's what it was for the longest time. And I remember, and by this time, Emily and I, we were dating.
Mm-hmm.
We were moving towards engagement.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Friday night, and I said, hey, let's just go downtown and walk around, because we had no money. But if you walk around Broadway, people watching is free, and it's an event all to itself.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, I was just sitting down, and I was noodling with the guitar. And I felt it was the weirdest feeling of, like, there's a song inside of me, and it's coming out today.
Wow.
So I called her, and I was like, hey, we can't go on our date. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm getting ready. I said, just please trust me. Like, I have to go write this song.
Huh.
So she was cool about it. I'm sure she was very annoyed, and she's
sure,
like, whatever, I'll see you tomorrow, So I go over to Tiffany's studio, and I just start unloading everything. As a songwriter, you know what is filler and you know what is real.
Yeah.
And it's really easy just to hide behind the filler of, like, oh, I wrote this, but that's really not me. When, like, you take all that away, this is me.
Yeah.
And those are the songs we love. Those are the songs that everyone goes, man, that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a glimpse into the person. So I started writing this song, and I remember halfway through saying some things in the song that I had never done in any kind of song before. And it wasn't like, these landslides of, like, oh my God, no one's ever done this. But I had never done it. I have never been so honest. And I made a demo of it, and I remember listening back to the demo and just going, I caught, you're recording something, you're just fishing for something. You're fishing for a moment, you're fishing for a vibe. That's why you do so many takes, because you want to feel the emotion of a take.
Yeah.
So I spent out, 7 hours that night recording this song and put it in my back pocket. And I would listen to it, and it became my little anthem. It's called Walking Miracle. And I said, man, Mike Donaghy from 10th Avenue would crush it with me on this. How do I ask?
Right.
And they were touring Winter Jam, and they have people coming up to them all the time. And they're so sweet with everyone when they were touring.
Yeah.
They take time for people. And finally, I had the guts to show Jeff. I said, hey, I wrote this song the other night at Tiffany's house. I said, can I just text it to you? And whenever you listen to it, you don't have to do it right now. If you like it, just say something. And if you don't, we're good. Do the Nashville thing and don't talk about it. So I'm setting up the stage that day. I forget where we were. And he calls me. He's like, get to the bus right now. So I run to the bus. Everything cool, and it's just him in there. And he has it blaring on the bus. And he's like, where did this come from? And I said, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. It was just me being real. And he's like, we got to record this. I said, okay. I said, well, I have a Tiffany's studio. He said, no, you have to record it in my studio. I said, I can't afford you. I'm about to get my car repoed, again. Like, I can't afford you.
It's the worst.
Oh my God. And so he said, shut your mouth. Don't worry about it. We're gonna figure it out. When we get to that part of the road, we'll talk about that part. So I'm standing. They had come back a few weeks later after that fact. They were playing Bridgestone on the Winter Jam. So that show was just chaos. There's so many people involved. I wasn't working it, so Emily and I just went and hung out, standing side stage, because never will I use anybody's, like, I'm Tom Golly's friend. I'm gonna come back here and hang with him, so people think I'm cool. So I'm standing off to the side, and they're about to be called on stage in front of Bridgestone, packed out arena. Mike has his in-ears in, and he comes up and stands this close to my face, pops his in-ears out, and he goes, I just heard Walking Miracle backstage. I said, oh, awesome. And I can barely hear him.
Yeah.
And he goes, I finally got to hear you. He goes, I've heard all the other stuff. He goes, other stuff, whatever. He goes, and then he jumps on stage and does the front man thing and goes crazy, you know. Finally, I get the nerve to go, hey, would you sing the bridge on that part? I said, I kind of wrote it with that in mind, but I never wanted to ask you. And I said, and I can't afford you.
Yeah.
And so he said, it's just kind of stopped, and he paused, and we're at lunch. And he goes, why would you be afraid to ask? I said, because you would say no. I don't want to hear a no. I said, I'm just really, in this past year of my life, I'm really used to hearing no's. And a yes would feel really good. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. I said, can I get it in writing? Like, because just saying, yeah, you'll do it is one thing, but to actually do it. He goes, shut your mouth, I'll do it. So I'd finished it with Jeff, and Jeff is, he's very accomplished, and his list is long, and his gear that he uses is, he could charge thousands for a song. And we spent days working on this song.
Wow.
And it's it's an acoustic, but it's capturing the moment.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know, man. He goes, by then, he should have charged me. And Jeff, don't recharge me. He should have charged me, $2,000 to $4,000.
Yeah.
Just with his time. He goes, I don't know, man, buy me lunch and then give me a couple $100. And the lifeline that they gave that they don't realize they probably gave to a kid who, how I was living life a kid, to just for someone in their seat to go, yeah, you're good. Just keep going.
That's incredible, yeah.
And so with no marketing, no nothing like that, it's by far the most far-reaching song.
Yeah, I've heard it. It's really great.
Thank
It's
you.
really great.
Yeah. And so now I'm at a point of life, man, where now I have those boundaries. Coming to a big church, when we were driving here, I was driving the U-Haul by myself, and Emily and Charlie are in the car behind me. I'm like, I'm about to go to a church with a couple thousand people every week. Am I ready for that kind of affirmation? Am I how it was before? And I think one, because the surrendering and being able to have a conversation with somebody and be like, hey, I messed up here. I did this, this, and this. And by no means am I perfect, but I still fail all the time. Yeah. But setting up those boundaries of I am not the guy, especially in Nashville. You can come to Nashville. You can in Greenville, you can be the guy. Because there's nobody who, if you go, I'm a good songwriter, I'm a good singer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Whatever you label yourself up, you probably are. You come to Nashville as the best songwriter in Greenville, you're pretty low on the totem pole just because it's just is what it is.
Yeah, it's a much bigger pond.
Yeah, you're a tadpole.
Yeah, 100%.
And so now it's it's fun getting to serve in a place where Emily, she's on staff in the worship department. So we're over it together with 7 other worship leaders who are on staff at some kind of level that I get to lead. So the weight of it all being on myself or Emily in such a big environment, it's just not there. You were talking about Austin. So Eric Van Zant, he's on staff with us, and he leads all the time, and he pours out. He's really big into, helping out with the next generation. So he's always done those camp electrics in town. And
yeah, I've met Eric. I really enjoy spending time with him.
He's a stud. And then it's interesting, our vocal, we have a vocal coach on staff who she helps run our front line. She used to sing with Amy Grant full time, and Sting, she's like, should we just call Sting? I'm like, do you hear what you just said? Should we just call Sting? She's like, oh, he's just an old friend. So it's interesting.
You got Sting to lead. That would be legendary. Get Sting at a church to lead worship.
Poop my pants.
You know what? We need to find a way to make this happen. It just has
That
to.
would be amazing.
Like, no, seriously, we need to get Sting to lead worship on, and you just need to poop on your pants. We need to prove it. We need to
On
video
stage.
this
I wouldn't
on
even
stage.
care. It would just, it's happening.
Like, it's happening. Yes.
Yeah.
Like the play, you know, I mean, it would be an eruption of, of some sort.
While we're playing Eruption.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, but like now it's like this season of so fun of like fatherhood right now is so fun.
Yeah.
My little boy is just
You have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now, we have one, and praying that more come along, man. Like our hearts even to adoption at some point too. I don't know.
Yeah, oh, that's incredible. I had Chris Clayton in here yesterday, and we talked a little bit about they adopted
Chris.
a 3-year-old, and
Yeah, that story's crazy.
yeah, it is. He didn't get too deep into the stories; are pretty long, but you know, I mean, just hearing about the heart of it, it's pretty cool. You know, I struggle because, you know, again, I'm 41, and I mean, I have an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old, you know, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just sort of in the zone where people are like, I want to have kids. Oh, we can't wait to have kids. And I'm like, no, don't do it.
It is. I mean, it really
Don't
does
do
change
it.
everything.
You know, I gotta say, I you know, people said this to me all the time, and I never really just, yeah, whatever, you know, but like, it was weird, man. Like, this happened this morning. Like, you know, my 12-year-old, she's in 7th grade, you know, and basically just get up in the morning, school. And it's just like, man, I had a flashback to, you know, 6 years ago. She was 6 years old, like, woke up, can't wait to go to school, running around the house, getting ready, this little ball of happy energy. And it's like, now she's 12 and everything sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Where'd that little girl go?
Yeah. But then I remember back when I was 12, I was like such a little dork.
No, well, dude, you know, I miss like,
Yeah.
you know, as a dad, it's tough because, like, you know, yeah, I get to play hero sometimes with my 18-year-old is now back into the understanding, like, whoa, dad is a superhero.
Yeah,
but like from like 15 to 17, it was like, my dad's an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and the last year or two, things have happened where, you know, I mean, in a loving way, I'm like, don't do that, or that's gonna happen.
Sure.
Or hey, try doing this if you trust me. And she'll trust what I say to do. And oh my gosh, it worked.
Yeah.
Dad knows stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
so I'm glad she caught it early.
Totally.
I didn't have that aha until I was 30. And my dad passed away when I was 23.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of things that he predicted would happen. If I don't do this, Tom, if you do this, and this is going to happen. Or Tom, do this, or this is going to happen. Everything he predicted was right. And I just was like, oh my gosh.
Right.
What I wouldn't give to be like, you were right. Teach me now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's powerful, but it's just tough because, man, like, you know, again, same thing. It's like, man, people are like, man, we want to have a baby. And I'm like, dude, it's the best part from like 0 to like 10.
Yeah.
And then something happens and
then
you're
turn
just
into
like,
a cop.
you become a cop, you become, you know, you become the chauffeur, especially if you're a busy creative like I am. People who know me know, like, if I'm in the zone, the worst thing, I don't care who you are. If you interrupt my flow, it's almost like those movies where it's like, you ever see a movie where like a zombie's eating something and then all of a sudden it's like, like that's the reaction you might get when you pull me out of, you know, creativity mode.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's
I get that.
one of the reasons this studio exists is because it's like, I mean, there's a lot of things I can't do at home anymore because just being ripped out of it, you know? But, yeah, fatherhood, I mean, it's so awesome. Yeah. It is. But at the same time, man, I'm sort of in that season of like, they have opinions. They don't listen. They argue. They yes you to death. They lie to you. And it's like, you know, it's just, so it's like, so it was people like, I love being a dad. I'm like, you know, and I'm just like, you have no idea what I went through yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still in the mode of like, everything's fun. You know, bedtime is the struggle right now just because you say it's bedtime and you're an evil person. But even like the school comment with your 12-year-old, like this morning we dropped Charlie off and he's like, where are we? I said, we're going to school. Again? I said, Bubba, again? Like, you got to get used to this. And he's just so like, he's so aware, but but even like, having just walked through like losing a friend with Charlie passing away, the sound guy, it makes me want to leave my Charlie like these legacies of like, you don't have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never written a spoken word song. Sometimes I think spoken word can be really cheesy, so I've just never done it. And I'm like, man, I want to write a song for my son, but I don't know how to do it without it just being either over the top, like Hallmark, really cheesy. I don't know where that balance. So I said, I'm just going to write him a letter and then just speak it. And so I'm actually wanting to release it in the new year. I got to figure out how. And it's just that. It's just me talking to him as a dad of like, hey, you're going to screw up a lot. You're going to screw up big time. But guess what? It's okay. Because you're not alone. It's like every big failure that I've had, even like 5 years ago, I thought everyone in the world, everyone in the songwriter world knows what happened to me, knows blah, blah, blah. But I'm going, no one cares because they got stuff going on and they're doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speaking of spoken word, like I don't know if you call it spoken word. I think it is, but there's a gosh, I normally don't bring my phone out during episodes, but I really don't remember the name of the band. A band called Good Luck Varsity. Okay. It's called Blood Medicine, and it's this whole spoken word story, and it basically it's essentially sort of like it's kind of like the gospel in a way.
Yeah.
But it's not in a church. I'll let you hear it before you leave. Okay. It's pretty epic, and I feel like if anyone ever wanted to like have a great format for, hey, that's a non-cheesy way to do a spoken word. It's a great example of it. And it actually inspired me there's this woman I know, I try to help her out a little bit by, she writes poetry, but like never records it. It's just written down, you know? So I had an idea because she's always buying merch. Her name's Denise Winter. She always buying my merch, always sharing my stuff. Just a really great fan, wonderful lady. And, it's like, you know what? I'm going to do something for her. And I went on Splice and I made and just made like a basic, real simple instrumental, almost like more of a rap beat, and just read one of her, read one of her poems, and cool. I was like, and it actually came out really cool. And I sent it to her and it was like, it meant a lot to her. And it got me thinking like, man, I want to do more of this. Yeah. And, shoot, I want to start rapping. And
that was the last thing people need from me.
Actually, my next single, I actually do read something. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't want to give too much away about it just yet, but
when is that coming out?
I don't know. It went to master yesterday.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, I just got the final mix back. And the worst part about the final mix when you send it to master is like driving in this morning, listening to it, going like, well, maybe I would change this, change that.
Yep.
But it's
the constant.
Yeah. And what it is, I've just come to learn, okay, look, some mornings my ears are going to be more sensitive to certain things.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And the truth is that, again, I've had Tom Jackson in here and he's talks about even live show, but even listening to real recordings, your fans are not listening to the mix. Your producer friends, musician friends are. Yeah. So relax. Yeah. I mean, one of my worst mix songs is probably one of people who are my fans it's their favorite song. Sure. And it's probably mixed terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the spoken word thing can be powerful, and I feel you like you want to write this timeless thing for your kid. Yeah. It's a challenge because you're like, I think that a lot of times we think too much about, I think we think too much about like, like what's this going to mean to him when he's 30? You know what I mean? And I think a cool idea might be, have you started this or not? Mm-hmm. Oh, you have? Okay. Yeah. So what do you kind of do like every year you do one?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't gone down that road. Yeah. I just was thinking, it's my pops, he's still alive and he's still pastoring and he's still rocking and rolling. And, just like any dad, we had that relationship of he was my cop for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I never did anything crazy as a kid. My big thing as a kid was I hated curfew. I broke curfew all the time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm out with, like, youth group kids. Like, we're not doing anything crazy. We're sitting at Taco Bell. Like, come on, man. And then it hit that moment of cop, friend. And then when, like, poop hit the fan, he was like, instead of Dad, I can't tell you because I'm gonna get in trouble. It's like, Dad, I gotta go to you.
Mm.
So right now, kind of the idea is the first half is him talking to me, and then me flipping the script, talking to Charlie.
Oh, wow.
And
That's cool.
So just, but then also like, I think as a teenager, Charlie's not gonna need to hear me be preachy at him as far as my opinions. So like, it's, run your race, don't be too proud, don't follow the crowd, like big overarching things. But then the chorus, the chorus, if it's spoken word, you know what I mean, is obviously it's stuck in my brain so well. It's all about just listening. Yeah, I'm his father, but don't listen to my voice. Turn off all of the noise. Don't listen to any other voice. Just listen to Jesus' voice. Don't even listen to my voice, because your walk is going to be different than my walk.
Yeah.
So I can preach to you of what I think you need to do. But at the end of the day, you're not going to do that because that's not your walk.
Right.
So push out everything else.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in that mode with my 18-year-old now. It's like, listen, you're asking me what I would do, or you're asking me what you should do. I can't tell you what you should do. I could tell you what I would do. I would tell you with the information you're giving me, the decision I'd make.
Yeah.
Here's some things I don't think you're looking at. Here's some concerns that I don't think you realize, some dangers that you don't realize.
Sure.
You got to make your own mistakes, and, sometimes some of those warnings, all of a sudden you'll get one day like, hey, you know what? I know what you mean now.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Like, that's gratifying and all, but it's like, yeah, now maybe in the future to heed that,
Yeah.
But yeah, an idea I had a long time ago, and I kind of realized, man, like, it's kind of late in the game to do this, but man, like, if as musicians or like even doing like spoken word type thing, I always thought it might be cool to like, okay, like child's born, right? Cool. Go in the studio and you do like like just, your thoughts, like, but like, again, in a, some way of a rhythmic way of like, kids born. So you're talking about, hey, kids, and like, what your hopes are, what your concerns are, what you're afraid of the kid,
Yeah.
right? Then basically like do it year 1, year 2, year 3, it's like throughout their life.
Yeah.
Now this kid gets married. Now you hand them a disc, year 1, year 0. It's like, dear son, you were just born,
Yeah.
and the hopes I have, and and then like the year, now, then year 1. Man, this first year, it was really tough for me as a dad. I learned this, and I learned this about myself, and I learned this about you. And here's what I'm excited about. And like, it might be so cool, because, dude, it kills me. Like, as a dad now, like I'm 41. My dad passed away. My dad was young. He was 58 when he died.
Wow.
And it's like, I was 23. And I would love to hear stories of what he was thinking, what that was like for him. Like, my daughter was in a car wreck recently. She's totally okay. But like, the whole time I was thinking to myself, like, wow, I remember the first accident I got into. I was 17. It was actually a very similar accident to what my daughter got into, as far as the logistics of it, in a way.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, this is what he felt like. And, and I spent a lot of time thinking my dad just didn't care.
Yeah.
But I know he did, because I
Sure.
remember his face. I remember the way, his voice. I remember a lot of things he said that night. But it's like, man, I wish I had that opportunity to really understand or hear from him. Like, yeah, when that happened to you,
Yeah.
man, this is what went through my brain. I would love that. And I
Yeah.
think that trying to capture your thoughts and feelings in a recorded way for your kid that they can use, whether you're still alive or you're long gone,
Yeah.
I think it's huge.
Yeah.
And, it's definitely something that I
Yeah.
would like to find a way to start doing at some point. I've even thought about chronicling like certain events in my kids' lives and just kind of getting down in front of a mic and just talk about them,
Yeah,
so they
totally.
have them.
Totally.
But I might even bring my kids in as podcast guests and just, hey, remember that time?
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool because, like, I remember my grandparents, all my grandparents, but my dad's dad was not a believer, not a great dude. But my mom's parents were both pastors, and they actually passed away in a car wreck.
Oh,
driving to a hospital to see one of their congregation members.
wow.
And this was in 95, so it was right when like internet was kicking off, but they had written a bunch of letters love letters back and forth to each other. So there's something about that, looking back, not only the nostalgia, but going, oh, they have dealt with the same thing too. And yeah, I'm big in nostalgia, man. I love it. I love thinking like the memories button on Facebook. I'm a sucker for that. Of like, what did I do? And then you see like 10 years ago, you're like, I really said that stupid. Like, I'm an idiot. But like,
Dude, I remember like probably about 4 or 5 years into my Christian walk. Here I am. I mean, my life was entirely different.
yeah,
Every top to bottom, different friends, different, different woman in my life. Everything was different. And it's like Facebook memory pops up. It's like, that's not a good memory. Or
yeah.
oh, I better go back and delete some of the stuff that I shared,
Yeah.
Just like, yikes.
Sure.
But so Facebook memories, for me though, man, Facebook memories, they hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
They pop up and it's maybe someone who's not in your life anymore.
Sure.
Or it's just something that you just like, man, I like that I'll never get to experience that again. They hurt sometimes.
Yeah. No, I
had a Facebook memory pop up from like, I had shared like a picture of me playing ice hockey. And hockey was a lifeline. That was a
cool.
place I can escape to in my life when I was high school was terrible for me. I didn't fit in with anybody. I just didn't fit in with any of the cool kids.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have any of the same interest as 99% of the people in the school. My friends were at the rink, or my friends were at the dock fishing, like that. That's where my friends were. And most of them were older than me or went to different towns. So like hockey was just the place where, and it was the one place where I felt invincible. Like, give me the puck and it's, I can make things happen.
Yeah.
I can, there's a lot of analogies I can make to life on why it was so cathartic to me. It's the one place where, I just didn't feel like the world could own me,
Yeah.
And I just missed a lot of it. I'm sorry, but like, there are a few things in life for me that will ever give me the same feeling as, getting the puck behind my own net and just taking off, burning 3-4 guys like a joke and putting one right through the goalie's legs all day. There's no greater feeling. There's just like, you're unstoppable. Yeah. Like, you're imposing your will.
Yeah,
wow. And it's tough to replicate, and you miss that, and you miss the freedom, and there used to be this quote that I had a poster. It was a beautiful poster, and I can't remember all the words to it, but it was something about like, you lace up your skates, you grab your gloves, you hit the ice, and nothing else matters for the next couple of hours. And it's like, man, I remember that. Like, literally, you weren't thinking about anything else. You weren't thinking about your girlfriend. You weren't thinking about your dad. Yeah, it's just, you were thinking about this game and what I'm going to do right now that I can control. I can control me. I can not quit. I can hustle. I can ignore the scoreboard that we're losing. All I know is that in every moment I get to touch that ice, to touch that puck, I'm going to do everything I can to do whatever it is that that I have happen. And like, man, that is just so cathartic. I think sports are important for a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm grateful. So like I said, seeing the memory of like, man, I haven't skated in years. I can't do it anymore. My knees are just ankles, elbows, like my body is just broken.
Good on you, man. I have zero balance. So I've been skating, multiple times.
Yeah.
I suck so bad, dude. So imposing my will on skates, they are imposing their will on me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy in the corner holding onto the wall.
Sure. Man, again, I haven't skated in years. I mean, I stopped playing for a number of years, just because that happens, and then bunch of guys were talking smack about how good, how they get together on Wednesday nights. I was a UPS driver for about 7 years, back in from 2003 to 2010. A bunch of guys were just talking crap, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. I was like, I should come down and like show you guys that you how much you suck, and they're just like, yeah, come down, bro. So I was like, I think I'm gonna do it, and I dug out my old bag from storage, and the The shorts, the hockey shorts didn't quite fit.
Yeah.
You know, everything else fit, but those hockey shorts were embarrassing. The skates I had were like so dull, and I fell a lot that first time. But you know what? Showed up to a pickup game with a bunch of UPS drivers, and I scored 14 goals that entire, like the whole time I was there. I was just like, score, score, kept falling.
Yeah.
But
Still scoring.
yeah, even with like dull skates, I was like, I was just like, hey, I still got this. I haven't played in years. I still got this.
That's crazy.
So I started playing men's leagues again and stuff, and open. It took about 2 years to actually get to where I once was, like skill wise, because it takes a long time to get your endurance, your leg strength. And then I made the mistake of joining this men's league, and you know, I was probably 20, I don't know, maybe 26. Playing on a team full of like 19, 20-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's like they wanted me to be their captain, but I didn't want the responsibility. And I kind of realized that like, oh, so you don't want to lead us? Okay. And like they didn't respect me anymore. So like nothing I said mattered anymore because and it just, I just didn't want a leadership role. And it taught, one thing it taught me in my life is this. God has given me a gift to lead. And when I refuse to lead, I'm going to get trampled on.
Sure.
That's just what happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, I want you in front. If you're not in front, you want to be in the middle, you're not, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
You know,
this is your spot. This is where you got to be.
That's it. Yeah. So it's like, I've learned a lot of when people expect me to lead, I'm going to say yes.
Sure.
And, cause that was terrible. There were some great kids and, you know, there was a lot of good opportunity for us to do some great things, but
do you know Tommy Iceland?
Yeah.
He's a skater. He's a hockey guy. He's
Really?
always posting about it. It's funny.
Yeah, I just wish, like I said, I wish my body can handle it. And maybe it could. I mean, I lost a lot of weight 2 years ago, and I was like thinking, But I mean, literally, I can't go play a show without like the next morning being like, wow, my knees hurt so bad.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the bones. And
Sure.
I'm just like, I just can't do it. And it's okay. That's fine. I mean, you know, it's that's part of life, you know. And
I'm not a hockey. I love baseball. I could watch baseball and play all day.
Man, I was pretty good as a little league player, but I joined a church softball league like a couple months before I left for Nashville.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, this is fine. It's not that bad. I mean, I'm kind of athletic. Dude, I was the worst player on the team.
Really?
Worst. I mean,
I could really competitive.
Oh my gosh. Dude, to me, it was like a fun thing to do. These guys were like, they had this shortstop. They're like, hey, play first base because I can catch. You throw it to me, I'll catch it.
Yeah.
Right? So like the first game, I'm like, all right, cool. This guy who hadn't been to any of the practices, right? You know, ball comes to him. I'm at first base, like, all right. He's just like, and this ball comes at me faster than anything I've ever seen. I'm like, whoa! And you heard this softball go through the air. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, what the hell are you throwing at me? Like, ball went behind me. Everyone's screaming at me. I'm like, yo, you guys need to relax. Yeah, I'm like, relax. Another game, I had like, you know, I had like kind of turned a certain way, and I felt my knee do something, and right away I'm like, I'm gonna grab my knee. You know, everyone's still screaming at me because the ball, someone threw the ball while I was in mid, like all my knee hurts.
Mid scream.
Yeah, and they're just like, get off! What are you doing? Like, hey,
church league?
I got hurt. Yeah, dude,
That's
Presbyterian
hilarious.
church. So you know they're only like, you know, I'm just kidding, but they were Presbyterian church, and you know, look. I end up leaving after like 4 or 5 games because I'm like, look, you guys take this way too seriously, and honestly, like I just don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, this was to me. I just took this is fun.
Yeah. It's just hanging out.
Just hanging out. But no, they're just like, you know, I mean, literally, I ended up to me. I ended up on a phone call with one of the guys to be like, what's your problem? This guy, his name was named Huang. And he just, I don't know, like
Irish guy.
No, he's you know, Asian. I'm not sure what, you know, what, like, you know, exactly what Asian, but, Asian dude. And, you know, cool, good dude. But like during the games, he's just a complete idiot to me. And I called him. I'm like, hey dude, like out of anyone on this team, like I have so much respect and love for you. What happened? You know? And he just was like, you know, told me all these things that I apparently have done to him. And I'm like, what? None of that happened. What are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, you call me Juan. My name's Huang. And I'm like, dude, your name is Huang. And he goes, it's Huang. And I'm like, that's what I'm saying. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. I gotta go. Now, I mean, I've seen him since. He's actually come to some of my hometown shows, and we're cool. It's fine. It was just like, what happened here, man? It just wasn't.
People apart.
It just wasn't for me, man. It just was not.
Yeah.
Wasn't my cup of tea.
Well, before we left last year, Greenville had a team, and I played, and they had really nice fields. It was the first time any church field I played on, it was always like the bad field. You're rolling ankles
every time,
all the time.
Oh yeah.
But I remember
rain puddles,
fenced in, and I'm thinking Jesus, if I can get a home run, I'll hang it up.
Yeah.
So, bro, we were getting pummeled by this team, and I'm just swinging for the fences. And I said, all right, here we go. This is probably the last game of the season or whatever. And I connected. You know how when you hit it perfect and you don't feel like you hit it, but it just takes off?
Yep.
And I hit it, and I remember going, oh my God, it's about to happen. There it goes. This dude out in left field climbs the fence.
No.
Caught it. So you're shaking hands with everybody. I see him coming. I'm like, be nice. Show him
Tell me you
love,
hit him.
Jesus.
Tell me you hit him.
So I just walked by him and I pulled him close and I'm like, I want to say so many things to you right now.
I'm just kidding. I didn't really want you to hit him, but no.
Oh, I wanted to, bad.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. I've been there. I've been on the receiving end of that too. I mean, I've scored some lucky goals. I mean, I played roller hockey years ago. God, I was probably like 18, 19.
Yeah.
And we beat the owner of the place. Like we beat his team. Like it was in the finals, 3-game series.
Yeah.
They destroyed us 20-2.
Oh, Lord.
Game one. We're like, oh my gosh. We're like, what are we supposed to do? Like we had never got beat like that.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we were a team full of individuals, Game 2, there's a couple of superstars didn't come, so we pummeled them.
Sure.
So game 3, it's like, look, they had all their stars back. I'm like, look, they got their stars back. They actually thought it was going to be an easy win last time. Like, guys, we need to play together.
Yeah.
So we played together for a bunch of individuals. We're all usually like the big guy on all our teams.
Mm-hmm.
We came together and man, we finished this thing and we went into overtime. Like this is like what you dream of, right? It's overtime. And it was 4-on-4 hockey, and it was like, okay, so they decided, okay, we're gonna end this quick. So they line up three people up front to one, and we're like, so we like, you know what? We're gonna put all 4 up on the front line, no defense. Like do or die, baby.
Go for it.
Yeah. So my center, who was Pete Leonard, he looked at me and we had a little signals. He would kind of tell me without telling me what he was going to do. If he winked at me, he was going to chip it ahead. If he smiled at me, he was going to drop it back. But so right away, he winks at me, chips it ahead. I take off, and now it's me versus the defenseman. I go right through the defenseman's leg, come around, and now I'm nervous, so I'm overhandling the ball, the puck coming in. Overhandling the puck, it starts to bobble and takes off on me. So now I'm pissed. Yeah. I'm just like, realize I blew my chance to have, and it's right along the goal line. I'm in the corner. I just take the puck, backhanded at the goal, blindly because I'm mad. Hits the goalie, goes in.
Oh, no way.
Goalie's like, no, come on. Because, it was an easy play for him.
Sure.
But he just went to tender it, and it just went dink in.
Oh.
And the whole, so I've gotten that moment. It was amazing.
Hilarious.
But that goalie come up to me after, and he's just like, you were so lucky. So lucky. And, hey, luck, whatever you want to call it,
That's skill.
It was, hey, I had the presence of mind to put it on net. That's the goal.
That's right.
Put it on net, and you never know what's going to happen. So.
Have you been to a Predators game?
No. I have not. I've been to plenty of hockey games in my life, but no. Part of the problem is, man, the Preds, it's a lot of money.
It is very
expensive. I can't for even nosebleed.
Yeah.
And I've been to Bridgestone for a bunch of different things, man. I don't know. That arena, unless you're I think 120 pounds soaking wet, the upper seats are forget
Not
it.
For you.
I mean, even when I lost a lot of weight and I was looking good, I was able to shop at non-big and tall places.
Yeah.
And I went to a Monster Jam thing with my daughter, and I go to sit in a seat, and I'm like, my hip bones won't go in.
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah.
They end up giving us better seats and stuff, but it's just like, man, it's like $200 a seat. Even it just tough.
I would like to, I've never been.
Yeah. I mean, I want to go just because of the chants that they do, It's all your fault. It's all they do that to
Don't
the
they throw
goalies.
the fish? Is that them?
No, I don't think that. Do they? Yeah, they throw the catfish. Yes.
Yeah.
But man, nothing was better than the '90s when it was the Florida Panthers. There was this whole story about how one of the guys killed a rat. They used to have rats that would be in the locker room. So one of the guys, like a rat, like comes walk. They're all in the locker room, and a rat just kind of walks out in the middle of the room. So without skipping a beat, this guy Scott Mellenby on the team just walks up, slap shots the thing into the door, and kills it. And they went on a 10-game. Actually, I think he had a hat trick that night with the exact same stick.
Oh my word!
He scored 3 goals. They won. They went on like a 10-game win streak after it. Like in one of the interviews, someone told them like, yeah, Scott Mellenby killed a rat the other night, had a hat trick, right? So they started throwing plastic rats on the ice.
That's awesome.
And dude, that whole season was incredible. Like I think they even went to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Dang.
And they lost. But dude, like they'd score and you'd see the goalie would kind of duck down into the net and just look it up, dude. It's the craziest thing. Just raining plastic rats. And they had made a rule that after that year, like if there's a penalty if you throw things on the ice.
Yeah.
They've sort of rescinded it a little bit, like to that degree, because I mean, literally, it was just thousands of plastic rats thrown down. They still sell plastic rats in the in that stadium as a thing, but that was a special season to watch. It was pretty
forever
wild.
to clean up the game.
Oh yeah, it would definitely slow the game down. Yeah, it was wild.
Gracious.
But dude, this has been fun. This has been awesome to have you on.
Yeah,
And
man,
you're definitely one of those guys where there's just so much we could talk about. So we'll have to have you on again for sure.
Yeah, just let me know, bro.
But dude, this was a good hang. So I guess if people want to connect with you, follow you, hear your music, where can they do all that?
Yeah, everything's on Spotify. Just Zach Loomis, ZACHLOOMIS, and then Instagram is I am Zach Loomis. You'll just see boring pictures of my life with nothing going on, and then a picture of my kid. And so next season, just writing songs and serving the church and loving life, man.
Very cool. So you have any music on the horizon soon?
So the publisher I work for, BC, I don't work for. I signed my deal right before the pandemic hit, like a week before the world shut down. So I made a couple calls and I said, hey, I know like it's just a year contract, but we are extending it because no one's doing anything. So just writing a lot of songs with other worship artists and non-worship artists too. That should be coming out hopefully soon. Just, you know how it is. You just release a bunch of songs, go. Yeah. Make friends. And,
that's always been my game plan. Go try to book shows, kind of go out there. And, early on in my career, one of my goals was to, I wanted to get signed. I wanted to do all that stuff. And, this industry has spoken loud and clear that's not, that's just not for me. And they don't seem to want me. And that's okay because it hasn't stopped me from doing what I do. So I've been enjoying that. And, it's been fun too because now I don't worry about, hey, is a label going to like this song or is a publisher going to be like, hey, we want to pitch the song. I don't even care anymore. Sure. Now I just put out the songs that one release will be a pop song. Next one's a rock song. Next one could be a worship song. I just do what I want.
Yeah. Well, with everything changing so fast, like the thought of being on a label would be terrible.
Yeah.
You can do everything, even if people don't, I don't know how to record anything. Go, buy a laptop and you can record everything you want.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So. And, it's interesting because, like, a lot of people, I think, and I think the label route is great. For me, the only thing I think being a label would help me is, possibly get me on radio.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunities that literally they're like, oh, we only work with signed artists. We only, which to me is a shame because, man, there's a lot of solid indies out there. Totally. Solid. Totally. And they're missing it, man. And even the labels, it's like, hey, guys, there's a whole farm system of people that you could be cultivating. Yeah. But instead, who I see get signed? worship leader that's never written a song, that's never toured.
Yeah.
You're trying to turn that person into the next big thing,
Mm.
and you don't know if they can handle it.
Yeah.
In 2 years, they might be like, you know what? The road was fun, but I want to have kids and a family, so I'm not doing that anymore.
It's not for
And
me.
you just invested a lot of money into somebody who hasn't proven a thing.
Totally.
And, it is what it is. Like, I know I sound jaded and salty, but at the end of the day, well, sure, I came here trying to get attention and trying to build something, and I have.
Yeah.
And nobody I feel like here's what I feel like. I feel like I'm one of those brands that go on Shark Tank, and all the sharks go, for that reason, I'm out. And it's like, okay. And then I go and I'm still going to build a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. And again, whatever. Again, there's something they're looking for, and I'm not it, and that may be a good thing even.
100%.
So, totally it. So,
and I've walked down that road with,
Yeah.
you're not alone in that. But
and to be fair, it's fine. I mean, I think really what the norm is, and I've had a couple people even say this to me, like, man, when you talk about music, like, you don't talk about it the same way most do. And because I love to tour, I love to perform, I love to do that.
yeah.
I'm not super passionate. I like to songwrite, but I'm not super passionate about it.
Yeah.
I don't read a ton of songwriting books and things like that. I just don't.
Yeah.
A lot of my songwriting just comes from I'm the guy who comes in a room with an idea,
Yeah.
and then I'm good at kind of going, hey, well, if we really want people to feel that, we should do it. We should approach it this way.
Yeah.
I'm very good on the emotions of music, because
Yeah.
that's what music is. It's
100%.
focused on how it sounds and how it feels
Yeah.
more than what it looks like written on paper.
Yeah.
And so I always love to surround myself with the guys who know theory. They know those things to structure it.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, well, we need to humanize that. It's a little too robotic.
Balance it out.
Yeah. So
Totally.
I definitely have a skill set, but it's just one of those things where songwriting is just like, the idea of pitching songs to me was always like, huh? I mean, I've had some fellow independent artists cut stuff I've co-written,
Sure.
and that's cool. I love that. I almost love that more than put my own songs out. It's like, hey, I helped write that.
Yeah.
But like Jonathan Jackson, a friend of mine, he just released an album, and one of the songs, we initially wrote the song with, like, it was like, hey, I'm looking for songs, and we wrote it, and it was like, yeah, it's just not quite what I want to do.
Sure.
As a single, because I only put out singles. It's just kind of the vibe. So, but man, again, we could probably do like 4 hours here, but I'm gonna cut you loose. And man, this has been fun. I really enjoy you, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me, man.
And I look forward to hearing more stuff from you. And who knows? Maybe next time we get together, you'll be talking about more than one kid. And well, we'll see what your wife has to say about that. All right. Well, man, God bless you, and look forward to big things. So
Yes, sir. Thank you,
that's
my friend.
official. Wrap it.